This is the flag of Yemen, but did you know that historically it's had several flags, one of which is this red flag with a sword and 5 stars? So what's the history behind it? What happened to this old flag of Yemen? Well, to find out, we need to go back into the past. And indeed, the current flag of Yemen is heavily inspired and very similar to several other flags of various Arab and Middle Eastern countries around it. Now, we can trace the exact Yemeni flag back to 1952, when there was a coup d'etat in Egypt leading to the adoption of a new flag, which is this flag. And as we can see, it's identical to the modern Yemeni flag, apart from that it has this symbol in the middle, which is of the hawk of Quraysh, and then with a green circle with 3 stars and a crescent moon, going back to the Ottoman period, as I explained in this video about the old flag of Egypt. Now this actually goes back to this flag, which is the flag of the Arab Revolt, a revolt that was launched in 1917 against the Ottoman Empire during the First World War by various Arabs that had been living under Ottoman rule in order to create their own states, which many of them did. Now the significance behind this flag is that the black colour is standing for the Abbasid Caliphate, the green colour is standing for the Rashidun Caliphate, the white colour is standing for the Umayyad Caliphate, and the red colour is for the Hashemite dynasty, as these were all important periods of rule by various families throughout Muslim history, and indeed Arab history too. So part of the reason why there may be no green on the flag that would become the Yemen flag, as this of course is one of the pan-Arab colours, is that on the Egyptian flag upon which the Yemeni flag was modelled, it was for the first few years co-official with the former flag of the Kingdom of Egypt, which was this green flag with 3 stars and the crescent moon. So maybe that's why they felt they didn't need to add any green on there. It's just a hypothesis. But in any case, the Yemeni flag then is red, white and black in a tricolour. But then what happened to that other flag? Well, we actually have to go back to a very similar period as to when the Arabs were revolting. Now, after the Arabs had revolted against the Ottomans and the Central Powers had lost the war, the Ottoman Empire was divided up by the Allies into several new states. One of the states that emerged was one in the northern part, the northwestern part of Yemen, which became ruled over by the religious Zaidi figure Imam Yahya, and therefore it became known as the Imamate of Yemen. Now, the first flag that was adopted by this Imamate was just a plain red flag. Now, as we've mentioned, red is an important colour in Islam. It's also one of the pan-Arab colours, but that's probably not why it was adopted here. However, by 1923, this was starting to look particularly communist, something that this state certainly was not. So to give it a bit more religious pizzazz, they added the Shahada, the most important phrase in Islam, onto the flag, which is also on several other flags of Muslim countries. Then in 1927, it had another change, which gave it a sabre, which is an important symbol on several Muslim flags, and 5 stars. Now, these 5 stars have been interpreted in various ways. Possibly it's going back to looking at 5 different regions within this Imamate of Yemen. Another possibility is that it is the 5 pillars of Islam. And thirdly, given the very religious nature of the Imamate of Yemen, it may also be a reminder to Muslims of the 5 times during the day in which they should pray. Now, the sabre we can also see is found on the neighbouring flag of Saudi Arabia, although it's worth noting that at this time the Saudi flag was different, and so it hasn't been taken as inspiration. And indeed, the Imamate of Yemen would fight a war against Saudi Arabia later on. Now, in 1962, the Imamate of Yemen came under direct threat when there was a military coup by one of the generals of the army, who then announced the creation of the Yemen Arab Republic, giving it this flag, which, as you'll note, is very similar to the former Egyptian flag, but it has a green star in the middle, so all the pan-Arab colours are being represented. However, the son of the former Imam, Muhammad al-Badr, escaped into the northern mountains and, with the help of Zaidi tribesmen, launched a civil war against the Republican troops. The Republicans were being aided by the Egyptian army, while the neighbouring Saudis helped the royalist rebels to fight back. However, by 1970, the war was over and the kingdom was officially dissolved. The country then largely became known as North Yemen, although officially it was still the Yemen Arab Republic. The reason it was known as North Yemen is because the two British protectorates in the south had also become independent and unified, and were therefore known as South Yemen, even though they called themselves the People's Democratic Republic of Yemen. Now, judging by the name, you can probably tell that this was a communist country, and in fact the only communist country that emerged throughout the Arab world during this time, and therefore their flag was red, as well as including a nice bit of blue in the triangle, but still very much fitting with the same theme. Now, this situation changed in 1990, when under Abdullah Saleh, the two states were unified into one single Yemen, known as the Republic of Yemen, and as the flag, they just decided to get rid of all the stars, no matter which color, and so we ended up with the Yemeni flag of today, the red, white, and black.